Hello students, let us continue with chapter 7, systems of particles and rotational motion. So this is part 6. So here we start with center of gravity. You can see an irregular cardboard being balanced by the tip of a pencil. So capital G is the support point, as you can see, and that is what we call as the center of gravity of that cardboard. As you can see in the diagram, the weight of the cardboard is mg acting vertically downwards from the point G. And the normal reaction is capital R acting vertically upwards from that point. So if we consider the cardboard to be divided into n particles, then the summation, we can sum up all the particles' weight together as mg. So here the tip of the pencil provides a vertically upward force due to which the cardboard is in mechanical equilibrium. And you know, in mechanical equilibrium, there are two types of equilibrium. One is translational and the other one is rotational. So mg is the total weight of the cardboard, and the cardboard, since it is balanced, it is in translational equilibrium. Similarly, since the cardboard is not falling down, it is also in rotational equilibrium. The center of gravity of the cardboard is such that the total torque on it due to all the forces is 0, because that is the condition for equilibrium. So total torque will be given by tau g, that means at the point of gravity, and that will be equal to sigma tau I, which is equal to, that is for the ith particle, which is equal to sigma Ri into Mig, and that will be equal to 0. Here Ri is the position vector of the ith particle, Mi is the mass of the ith particle, G is acceleration due to gravity, and when we sum up, we get the total torque for all the particles. So we may define center of gravity of a body as that point where the total gravitational torque on the body is 0. But we know that g, acceleration due to gravity, is not equal to 0. It has a value of 9.8 meter per second squared. Therefore, the total torque, sigma MIRI, has to be 0 because g is not 0. And the position vectors Ri are taken with respect to the center of gravity position. So origin must be the center of mass of the body. So for small bodies, center of gravity coincides with center of mass. But for large bodies, because g varies, center of gravity will not coincide with center of mass. Now this is a method of determining the center of gravity of a body of irregular shape. You can see the body is suspended from the point S, and if you draw a vertical line, the line passes through AA1. Now you can shift the position of the body to B, suspend it from the point B, and you get another vertical line BB1. You can suspend it from the point C and you get another vertical line CC1. And all three lines will intersect at a point, and that point is the center of gravity G. Next is moment of inertia. So if you look at the diagram, you can see a body of irregular shape is rotating about an axis, Z axis. And as it rotates, you can see a particle is at the point P and it moves to P dash. It covers an angle delta theta. Its velocity at P is V and its position vector from C is R. So let us see what is the kinetic energy of the ith particle. Imagine at P the ith particle keeps rotating. So kinetic energy Ki can be written as half mi vi squared. But we know V equal to r omega, where V is the linear velocity and omega is the angular velocity. So if you make a substitution for Vi squared, it becomes Ri squared omega squared. Omega squared will be same for all the particles. So kinetic energy can be written as sigma I equal to 1 to n Ki, which is equal to half sigma I equal to 1 to n mi Ri squared omega squared. And since omega squared is same for all the particles, kinetic energy can be written as half omega squared sigma I equal to 1 to n mi Ri squared. Now this term in bracket is called the moment of inertia of the rigid body. That is sigma I equal to 1 to n mi Ri squared. But sigma I equal to 1 to n mi can be written as the entire mass of the body, or capital M. Now this term is known as the moment of inertia and it is denoted by the letter capital I. So K equal to half I omega squared. If you compare it with kinetic energy of a body in linear motion, K equal to half mv squared, then you can see I stands in place of m. In rotational motion, we use the term I, or moment of inertia, whereas in linear motion, we use mass m. And in rotational motion, angular velocity is omega, linear velocity is v. So therefore, I is the analog of mass in rotational motion. We can see the moment of inertia of some regular shaped bodies about the specific axis in the table. So number 1, you see a thin circular ring of radius r, and you can see in the figure it is rotating about a perpendicular axis passing through the center. In such a situation, the moment of inertia of the ring will be mr squared, where m is the mass of the ring and r is the radius of the ring. Look at number 2. You have the same ring, but the axis of rotation is along the diameter. So it is going to rotate in a different position. And the moment of inertia will be mr squared by 2. The third one is a thin rod, and the axis of rotation is perpendicular to the rod passing through the midpoint, and its moment of inertia is ml squared by 12. Number 4, you have a circular disc of radius r and the axis of rotation is perpendicular and passing through the center. So the disc will rotate about that axis and its moment of inertia is mr squared by 2. Number 5, the same disc has the axis of rotation along its diameter and it will rotate about that axis. Its moment of inertia changes to mr squared by 4. Number 6, you see a hollow cylinder and the axis of rotation is along the axis of the cylinder. And as it rotates, its moment of inertia will be mr squared. But if the cylinder is a solid cylinder, then the moment of inertia will be mr squared by 2. And for a solid sphere of radius r, when the axis of rotation is along the diameter, you get the moment of inertia to be 2 by 5 mr squared. Now in all these values for moment of inertia, you can see the factor m, that is the mass of the object, multiplied with r, with some coefficient of r squared. So we can sum up and write the moment of inertia as mk squared. So k squared stands for the remaining part of the moment of inertia formula. And k is called the radius of gyration of the body about an axis. So the radius of gyration of a body about an axis may be defined as the distance from the axis of a mass point whose mass is equal to the mass of the whole body, and whose moment of inertia is equal to the moment of inertia of the body about the axis. So, moment of inertia depends on m, it depends on r. So, it depends on mass of the body, shape and size. It depends on r, that is distribution of mass about the axis of rotation, and the position and orientation of the axis of rotation, whether it is perpendicular or parallel or along the diameter or in whatever. So, it depends on all these factors. Now, the dimensions of moment of inertia will be ml squared, and the SI units are kilogram meter squared. Next, let us see the kinematics of rotational motion about a fixed axis. You know the kinematics of linear motion. Equations of motion are v equal to v0 plus at, x equal to x0 plus v0t plus half at squared, v squared equal to v0 squared plus 2ax. You know all this for linear motion. Here x0 is initial displacement, v0 is initial velocity, and the word initial refers to values of quantities when t equal to 0. Next we will see what are the equations of rotational motion. So similar to the previous equations, we have equations in rotational motion. So omega equal to omega 0 plus alpha t, theta equal to theta 0 plus omega 0 t plus half alpha t squared. Omega squared equal to omega 0 squared plus 2 alpha theta minus theta 0. Here theta 0 is initial angular displacement of the rotating body, and omega 0 is initial angular velocity of the body. Now here we see a comparative table between translational and rotational motion. The other word for translational motion is linear motion. So you see number 1, in linear motion displacement is denoted by x, whereas in rotational motion angular displacement is denoted by theta. Number 2, velocity v equal to dx by dt in linear motion, whereas angular velocity omega equal to d theta by dt. Number 3, acceleration a equal to dv by dt, that is rate of change of velocity, whereas angular acceleration alpha equal to rate of change of angular velocity d omega by dt. Number 4, mass m. Its corresponding factor in rotational motion is moment of inertia I. 5, force F equal to ma, but instead of force we have a term torque. Tau equal to I alpha in rotational motion. Number 6, work. Work is dw equal to fds, whereas work in rotational motion is tau into d theta. Kinetic energy, number 7, K equal to half mv squared, whereas kinetic energy in rotational motion is half I omega squared. Number 8, power, P equal to F into velocity, whereas power P equal to tau into omega, because instead of F we have torque tau, and instead of V we have angular velocity omega. 9, linear momentum P equal to mv, whereas angular momentum L equal to I omega. Now here we have two applications of the law of conservation of angular momentum. If you recall the law of conservation of angular momentum, in the absence of an external torque, the total angular momentum of a system remains conserved. So let us see, you can see a girl sitting on a swing, on a swivel chair, that is a rotating chair, with her arms outstretched. And she is going to rotate. That is first case. In the second case, she keeps her hands very close to her chest and rotates. Now where will the rotation be faster? So that is what we are going to see. Now look at the calculation. We know I omega is a constant according to the law of conservation of angular momentum. I into omega equal to a constant. Now I is mr squared. So in the first case, when she has her arms outstretched, r1, mr1 squared omega 1 will be equal to mr2 squared omega 2. R2 is the maximum distance when arms are held close to the chest from the axis of rotation. So obviously R1 is greater than R2 because when she has her arms outstretched, the distance to the tip of her fingers will be R1 and that will be greater than R2. So then omega 2 will be greater than omega 1 according to the law of conservation of momentum. So when she holds her hands close to her chest, she will be able to rotate faster on the swivel chair. Now this is another example of an acrobat, and he makes use of the principle of law of conservation of angular momentum in her performance. So let us see. In the first case, we can see he is in a vertical position with his arms and legs stretched out. So from the axis of rotation, the distance will be large. Whereas in the second position, she is curling with a smaller radius and she is able to rotate in that position. In the first position, she is starting to rotate, but when she curls, she is able to rotate faster. This is the example of law of conservation of angular momentum by an acrobat. Okay, thank you students. That's all for today.